Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Summarized AI. In continuation to our series, today we will explore syntax and indentation, which is backbone of Python. So, syntax in Python simply means the rules of writing code correctly, just like grammar rule in English. If you don't follow these rules, Python can't understand what you mean. So, before your program even runs, it will stop and show an error called as syntax error. So let's get back to our Visual Studio and create a test file as practice.py and write a statement print and then say hello. And if we miss this particular bracket here, it will give us an error as syntax error. Thing was never closed. Okay. Because the closing parenthesis is missing, kind of like forgetting a period at the end of a sentence in English. In short, syntax errors happen when your code doesn't speak Python's language properly, so Python refuses to run it until you fix the mistake. So if I make it correct and rerun this code, I can see the output is hello. Great. Unlike many languages like C, Java, or JavaScript, Python doesn't use curly braces to define code blocks. Instead, it uses indentation or white spaces. For example, let's try this with a if condition. If true, print entering block, then again say exiting block. Okay. Now you see here unexpected indentation because it should be coming here. Now let me try one more thing. If I write here outside block and if I run this program, it will get run successfully. But if I give a space here and try to run this code, it will give me an error. Okay. Now, if you see one more thing here, if I say if false, okay, this particular code will not get executed. This one, it will print only outside block. Okay. Now, if I move this particular or remove the indentation or the space from here or the tab, I see the exiting block got printed because we moved it outside of if, which means if that particular space or tab is not there, then our program will not give us the correct output. So the best practices for indentation is always use four spaces per indent label as per TEP at standard. Okay. And avoid using tags. The tab we give, avoid using that. Use spaces consistently. Okay. And most IDs like Visual Studio Code, PyCharm handle indentation automatically. So if you are using an ID, so if you see I'm using Visual Code and if I give tab, it it correct it. I'm not getting any error. Correct. If I do manual, then I may get an error. Okay, great. Now, as we know, wrong indentation causes errors, and that's the same thing what we saw. Great. Now let's discuss about keywords and identifiers we have in Python. Okay. Keywords are nothing but reserved words that have special meaning in Python. Okay. You cannot use them as variable names or identifier. Let's first try to understand what are keywords. Okay. So if I go here, okay, if I go here and say import keyword, okay, and I say print keyword, not keyboard, it should be keyword. And I say keyword dot kw list. Okay. And let me clear this. So these are the special keywords which got provided by Python out of the box, default keywords. Okay. And if I try to use these keywords, or if I'm creating an identifier and if I'm going to give this keyword as the identifier, our code will not work. Okay. So for example, if I say I equal to 10, okay, and if I print, it will allow me to print i's value as 10. Okay. Now, if I use any special character, for example, if I use elif, okay, let me use that. What it is saying? It is saying unexpected expression. Okay. Now let me run this code. Okay. It is saying syntax error, invalid syntax. Why? Because this alif has a special meaning in Python. We cannot write this alif here. It should be coming with if else. Okay. We use for it for conditional statement, and using it here, it is giving us the syntax error. So we cannot use it. Now, similar to that, if we are writing a function add, okay, for adding two numbers, okay, and I'm returning a plus b, okay, this will execute, no issues, okay. Let me print the output also for you guys, 2 comma 3, and oh, I have to call this function. So add 2 comma 3, and if I execute, I'm able to get the output, okay. Let me clear the screen here. Okay, let me execute. You can see the output is 5, okay. Now def is to define the functions. Okay. Now, if in case of def, if I use class, okay, it will not allow because class is its own meaning in Python. This is a special keyword. We cannot use that. Okay. Now, in place of that, if I use this as a class here, we cannot do that because again, class has a special meaning in Python. We cannot use this name. And if we try to use this name, it will give me the syntax error. Okay. Great. Which means if you're trying to, if you're talking about keywords, okay, let's talk about identifiers too. Okay, so identifiers are simply, so this is what we did here. Okay, this is what we did here earlier. Let me control Z. Okay, so I defined this variable name. Okay, so here I is nothing but an identifier. So identifiers are simply the name you give to things in your program so that we can use the later, like variables, functions, or classes. So here I define an identifier as I. Okay. And below to that, I have created a function as add. Okay. And I can use this particular function later somewhere, which means I'm just creating this function and giving add as an identifier. So this identifier I can use here to add things. Okay. Now, if I write this here quickly and say 3 comma 2, I use this identifier. Okay, this identifier will call this particular function. Great. Now they let you make, they let you name part of your code so you can use them later. This is what we discussed. Okay. So what are the rules for identifiers? If suppose we wish to write the identifier, what are the rules we should follow? First of all, we should not use the default keywords, whatever is given by Python, very first thing. And the other things are always use lowercase letter, okay, like name, age, amount, always lowercase. And if the name is longer or multi-word, use underscore, like snake underscore case words you can use. For example, interest underscore rate, total underscore amount. Okay. Now, if you're defining a constant, constant is something for which the value is going to remain consistent throughout the application. Okay. It will not get changed at any point of time. So constants we can define all in capital. And if it is multi-word, then capital letters having underscore. Great. Now numbers are allowed in name. There is no issue. But the number should not be at the start. It should not be at the first position. We cannot have one user underscore name, but we can have user one underscore name, u1 ser underscore name, or user underscore name one. We can have those values, but number not at the start. Similar to that, use only underscores as a special character. Okay. Don't use at the rate, hash, or some other special characters. Only underscore we should be using. Great. Now that was all about the identifier. Now let's talk about comments in Python. So comments are note you write inside your code to help you or others to understand what code is doing. Okay. So comments are just for humans or other developers understanding, not for Python. So when the program runs, Python completely ignores them and developer can easily understand what this function or variable is doing. Okay. For example, if I go back to my IntelliJ, I have this function written here. Okay. So I can say here as a comment, return sum of two numbers. Okay. Now if I run this particular program, nothing will get break. Okay. And you will not see these lines in output and our code will not get break because this particular line we have written to help developer so that they can understand what this particular line is doing. Okay. I do understand this is like only two lines here, but we may have like multiple lines of code doing some calculation. So we can give a comment and with that comment developer can easily understand. Okay. So here the line starting with hash, this line starting with hash is a comment. It does not affect how the program works. Okay. Python will only run the second line that actually prints the or that actually return the sum. Okay. This is also called as this one is also called as single line comment. Okay. In Python, we also have multi-line comment where we can provide comment in multiple lines. Okay. But I do understand you may say like we can write the comment something like this where we have already written here and we can write some description here also. So which is nothing but at the end of the day, multi-line comment. Okay. Great. But to write it correct way, we will be using the quotes. Okay. Triple quotes. Okay. One, two, three. Let me remove it. One, two, three. And here within this particular code, I can write function is to find sum. Okay. And if I run this particular program, you see it got ran and I'm able to write the comment in multiple lines. Okay. If we have a very big description or a comment to provide, we can use multi-line. Okay. So point to be noted here, triple quotes are technically string literals, not real comments, but they work as documentation or temporarily disable code. Okay, so if you write something inside this triple quote, that particular thing will not get executed. Okay, great. But we can, but we have one more concept as doc string, which is also called as documentation string. Okay, so doc strings are special multi-line strings used to document functions, classes, and modules. So doc strings placed immediately after a definition enclosed in triple quotes. So let me do that. Let me go here. And in place of this, if I write this we call as docstring. Okay. Now, why we call it as docstring? Because if someone is calling this function and not having an access, okay, but wish to see what comment we have given inside this particular function, we can get that with the help of function name dot underscore underscore. doc. Okay, so if I run this here, it will tell what is written. Okay, what is written, what comment is written inside this function. So function is to find sum. Okay, and we can do one more thing. We can write help, and inside this we can write add. Okay, if I run again, it will say add function, which is taking two parameters and having this particular comment. That's it. That's it. It will provide the complete information around this function, whatever we have written in the triple code. That's great. And that's all we have for today's session. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I will be coming up with more videos on Python, AI, and programming tips. So make sure to hit the notification bell to stay updated. See you in the next video. Bye bye.